The A-4 was designed for a nuclear mission role, and the airplane was built around the Mark 7 nuclear weapon, which was a very large nuclear weapon. So it dictated the stance of the airplane on the ground, length of the gear, a number of other things. So when Heinemann, the Douglas designer, designed the airplane, his entire focus was around that and around making sure the airplane was as simple and as light as possible so it could carry the heaviest load and perform the best. After the airplane was designed, of course, a conventional weapons mission was always a second burner in building the airplane. In the day, airplanes were a bit bigger than that, and of course with the advent of Phantoms and other airplanes, the A-4 became more of the, as it was called, the tinker toy, or the scooter. Early on, the A-4 held the low altitude high speed record and was only taken away from the A-4 by the F-100. Of course, the thrust to weight changed dramatically over the years because they changed engines and it kept upping the thrust. But those early airplanes were so light, they held speed records. The initial models have 3 racks on the underside of the airplane, 2 under the wings and 1 under the center line of the fuselage. That allowed for hanging fuel tanks to improve the range, because its range is very narrow, is very short, I should say, without carrying external drop tanks. All models of the A-4 except the TA-4 carries 5,200 pounds to 5,400 pounds, and that depends on the weight of the fuel type and the temperature of the day, which also changes the fuel. Of course, on the later Model A-4s, starting with the Echo, they added 2 more racks, and so there were 4 wing racks. And when the airplane is loaded up with bombs and weapons and fuel on all of those racks, with that tiny little wing on the A-4, it makes you wonder how it flies, because where does the air get the lift with all that junk underneath the airplane? So it's a very cool looking airplane to see fly by with that kind of bomb load, especially considering the fact that it's got a delta wing, which means that it has to fly with a very nose-high attitude at the slower speeds to maintain the same lift. I call it the scooter for a reason, because it handles like a very nimble scooter. It's one of the most maneuverable airplanes out there. Had a really good turn radius. The early model A-4s, the A and the B were very light, then the Charlie had a lot of extra equipment on it and it got heavy. Still had the same thrust. And so the wing and all of that made the Charlie the slowest A-4 ever built.